How's it going, everyone? In the last episode, we looked at my Bioshock collection, in which I showcased a decent little shrine of Bioshock memorabilia that I've collected over the years. Well, today we're going to be doing something a little bit different and taking a look into my Nintendo collection. And that can range from figures to games I've collected over the years, and just a few little odds and ends. I do apologize, and this is kind of a disclaimer. I am a little under the weather, so my voice is going to be a little bit hoarse, but if you'll bear with me, hopefully it won't be too bad. Okay, but without a further ado, let's get into the collection. And here is what started it all. This is my Atomic Grape Funtastic Nintendo 64. Now, as you can see, it is a little dusty. I haven't played it in years. I know it does work. And by play it, I have turned it on and, made sure everything still works and, just kept it freshened up, I guess. But of course, just like everything that sits and doesn't get used as much, it will accumulate dust. But as far as actual condition goes, you can see it is in quite good shape to be as old as it is. And my uncle bought this brand new back in the day, and of course it got handed down to me, and I've always kind of took care of it. But as you can see, and I've still got the original controller and a bunch of games for it that like I said, over the years I haven't played. But this in particular was the start of a massive collection and feud, I guess that's the right word, of a Mario craze whenever I was really, really little. And you're going to see that here in very, very shortly. So this was the first thing that I wanted to showcase because it's kind of the stepping stone. It started it all, and I feel like it wouldn't be, right if I didn't give it the things. So here it is. And of course, I couldn't mention the N64 without mentioning the GameCube. Now this one is, it's in a little rough shape, but it was given to me by a family friend, and it is the Silver Edition GameCube. Of course, it works. It was a very, very thankful gift that it was given to me by a family friend. But yeah, that's just a secondary mention that I wanted to add in there, just because I had it laying around and it needed some attention to, I guess. But yeah, there's the GameCube, and this is actually going to follow into our next item here on the list, so let's check it out. And of course, you cannot have a GameCube without Smash Brothers Melee. Now this one, the reason why this is so special is because it actually came with this GameCube. And it is a fully complete copy. And by what I mean by that is, it does have the manual. And of course I added a little bit of I wouldn't call it an aesthetic. I do use it, but it is a memory card in the memory holder, and of course the game is there, and it's in excellent condition. So yeah, I just figured I would kind of add that in there. But yeah, that is one of my holy grails that I own. I did have another holy grail, but I lost it in moving, and I'm not even going to say what it is because of how important it was to me. Moving on here, and you may be wondering why I chose him to be the first one to review. This was actually the very first figure I ever owned out of this series, and there's a funny story about it. This is not actually the first cart that I own, technically. It is the same one, but it's not the same exact one that I owned, if that makes any sense. So the story goes is, as a very, very young child, these were, they were hard to find, but not as hard as they are now. And I just so happened to walk into a flea market one day, and of course, after digging through a bunch of piles and stuff, I found a cart identical to this one. It was Donkey Kong, and of course it had no seatbelt, the steering wheel was gone, and as you can see, this one's bent. So yeah, they're not very strong figures to hold up against the test of time, but yeah, and that's the reason I put him at the first part of this list, because you know he is the one that kind of started it all. And these figures are extremely expensive, especially now. You can buy them loose for pretty cheap. That's how I got my collection. None were in box, but you know that's why I like them, because they're loose figures. I mean, they're, if you wanted to pose them, you're not worried about taking them out of a box. So, but yeah, that's Donkey Kong. I'm gonna give him a little bit of a spin around here. He does have his seat belt. But yeah, and he does come out of the cart, in case you were wondering. And these carts, if you don't know, which a lot of people do, and some people that have never seen these before don't know, is you pull them back and they, well, they're supposed to go forward. That one didn't. But yeah, so there's Donkey Kong. Alright, and the next guy is going to be Wario. Now, of course, he doesn't like to sit in his cart very well, because someone, and I don't know who done it, mix-matched the seat belts. And this is not the right one for him. As you can see, it will not go over him. So, I just kind of keep him loosely sitting there, but take him out of his cart. Now, this was the second figure that I actually purchased. I apologize, he's a little bit hard to get to stand. And he is pretty rough. He's got a few dings and paint issues. And of course, I give him the blue shell. Let's see if I can get this thing to engage. It's going to shoot here in a minute. Right when I don't want it to. That's how it always does. Just kind of goes off on its own. But I got him secondly because of how cheap he was, and the cart. That was the always my favorite color cart. And Wario is just kind of like an icon, you know, to me. I always liked him as a character, even though he's, you know, kind of a douche. That's, I guess, why I like him. This figure has, I don't know how many points of articulation. It's not very much, but it is a well-done figure. It's probably one of the best Warios, in my opinion, period, because it really captures, to me, the essence of what he is. But yeah, his head moves, his arms, and his legs. I don't think his hands move. I'm not sure. No, they don't. Okay, so basically his head, his arms, maybe his hands, they look like they move, but they're not moving, and I'm not going to force them, because the thing about these old figures are they don't really hold up to the test of time. You know, like I was talking about with Donkey Kong, he's in shape, you know, not in shape. He's in good shape enough to where he's not broken. But I'm not going to force him, because of course anything can happen, and I really don't want to have to buy another figure because he breaks, because they're not cheap. But yeah, so here's Wario. I've already given the view on him, but I'm going to take a look at his cart real quick and let you guys look at that. And of course, like the other one, his cart is the big cart. Now, a lot of people don't understand or don't know, if you're not a collector of this kind of things, these carts do differ from character to character, and not just by color, but if you take a look at Donkey Kong's, of course, it's going to be the same as this cart, because they're classified as heavy characters, just like in the game. And you'll see what I'm talking about as we go through the characters that, you know, I have. Yeah, here's the cart. It's in decent shape. It's got a few little nicks here and there, but overall, it's still in pretty decent shape. But yeah, so there's Wario. Up there it went. So there's the blue shell. Not much special. These are made out of pretty much rubber. So yeah, there's Wario. And now we're going to review a good guy of the Mario Kart roster, or Mario Kart 64. This is Yoshi, and now of course you can't really see him very well because of how he's positioned in his cart, and I'll fix that here later. But what I was talking about earlier with the differences in the carts, I'm going to show you this. So a good way you can tell I guess, in a way, is the exhausts. See, of course, he's going to have the tiny little exhaust, and then he's got the big pipes. I know that sounds crazy, but if you look at the, I guess, length of the carts, there is a little bit of a difference. I'm not sure if I can... Maybe I'm crazy, I don't know, but I know that there is a little bit of a difference in the size, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, here's Yoshi. He's got a little bit of damage. This exhaust has come off. He didn't come with any items, just like the rest of them. The only 2 items that I actually have is the blue shell, like what I got right here for Wario. And I think one of the figures actually came with just 2 of those. And if anybody's got any items they want to sell as far as that goes, hit me up. I would be more than happy to purchase them. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and take Yoshi out and give you a full view of him real quick. Okay, so here's Yoshi out of his cart. Now of course you can see that arm joint. That is looking pretty loose, and this figure has been through it too. He's lost a lot of paint over the years. But still, nonetheless, a perfect Yoshi figure, in my opinion. One of the best, if not the best, to me, because of how posable he is. And that's what makes these figures so great, is how posable they really were for their time. These come out in, I think, 98 or 99 by Toy Biz. And yeah, that's kind of the reason I always wanted them, because of how posable they were. Of course, his head moves. He needs cleaned. I need to clean him, and I'm actually eventually going to color match some paint for these guys and touch them up. That way they don't look that bad. I'm not interested in selling any of these, so it doesn't really bother me if I tone them up a little bit. But yeah, so here's Yoshi. I'm going to go ahead and set him over to the side. I'm going to show you the cart. Now, something else I found that seems a little bit different on the carts is the wheel size. I actually just noticed that a minute ago. If you take a look over here, he's got the bigger back tire, and this one has a smaller back tire. There is a little bit of a key difference in the carts, you know, but you know, nothing too major, I guess. Each card is designed for their character. Like, you're not going to put Wario in this card over here because it's just not going to look right. But as far as like my favorites go, these 2 probably have to be some of my favorite color cards, but probably not my favorite characters. I'll get into that later. But anyway, there's Yoshi. So let's move on. So this next one, I think, goes without saying. This was the holy grail for me out of this whole figure line. And it's one of the 2 holy grails. And the other one I haven't actually got the chance to buy yet. But here is the Mario Kart 64 Bowser. And as you can tell, he's in pretty good shape. I didn't bother leaving him in his cart because he is a pain to get into that thing, pretty much like Wario is. But I'm going to go ahead and set him down. He is extremely detailed. I mean, if you take a look, if it'll focus, he's even got the red in his eyes there, which is just amazing for a figure this old and this cheap back in the day. And his body is textured, you know, like the reptile kind of skin. It's just amazing. You know, they really put the time and the effort into this figure, and that's why I love these figures so much, because they really done wonders. I mean, even his toes are detailed, and his claws, everything. So very, very excited and happy that I ended up with that one. And of course, here's the other blue shell that goes, you know, along with that one. So there's those 2 together. But yeah, and of course he does have a few little nicks here and there, but nothing major. Just a few little, you know, bumps and scratches. but definitely one of my favorite figures that I own to date. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring his cart down here, and you may not be able to see it on camera, I'm not sure, but his cart almost has like a metallic color. I don't know if you can see the glitter in it, but it is the orange cart. Once again, not exactly my favorite, but Bowser is definitely one of my favorite characters. So yeah, gotta hand it to him there. But that is Bowser, so enough about him, and we're going to move on to the last figure that I have. Yeah, it's sadly last but not least as far as this figure series goes. So let's move on. And here we have the star of the show. This is the Mario variant of this series, one of the two Mario variants. There is another one that is a Ghost Mario that's translucent around the arms there, but I personally, I didn't care too much to really buy that figure. I mean, I already had a Mario, and to me, I really didn't need another, but someday I eventually will purchase it. Not entirely sure when, but I will get around to it eventually. But his cart is complete, in great shape. He's actually the best shaped figure that I currently have, other than, well, really, Bowser. I mean, that's the only two figures that I have that are in like complete great shape. But yeah, so he's got his little cart and his seatbelts there and all that junk. And there is another figure that I'm looking for, and like I said earlier, if you guys end up having one that's loose and don't really need anymore, which that's probably a low chance because most people that buy these are collectors like me, I am in search of a Luigi. Mainly just the figure, because I can find the cart fairly easily, and I've almost bought the cart, but I just felt like it would be odd to have the cart and not the figure, so I've been kind of holding off on purchasing him until I can find one. I actually did have one purchased, and each time that I would go to pay for it, eBay for some odd reason would not take my payment, and I don't know, it was something to do with the fact that it was overseas and it was in a different country, the person that had it, and it just would not transfer my American funds into, I guess, euros. So, or whatever it was some other currency that, you know, wasn't American. I can't remember at the time what it was or where the figure was actually at, but most of these actually came from overseas. So I really didn't understand the problem there, but I let it go because they wanted a lot for the figure, and it was kind of a desperate buy, considering that, you know, I don't have him. He's the only figure that I'm missing. But yeah, enough about Luigi and my rambles, and let's take a closer look at Mario outside of his cart, and then I'll get a view of his cart as well. So here is Mario outside of his cart, and his hands do actually move. Didn't know that until right then, whenever I was kind of posing him up for film. But yeah, here he is, and he's in excellent shape. I mean, there's really not a bad spot on him that I'm unhappy with. I mean, he's one of the best like shape figures that I've got, and he's still got the gloss to him that he had back in the day whenever this was new. Some of the paint had gloss, some of it didn't, but you can see it really well in his red there, the reflection. But yeah, definitely was happy to get him. He's definitely on my like top 5 list, of course, because it's Mario, but you know, you don't really have much figure base to go off of. I mean, other than these that's here, there's only 2 other figures that ever came out for this whole line in the Mario Kart 64 series. Now, of course, there was a Diddy Kong Racing line that came out, and it was a decent little like run that they had. But the problem is that they only made 3 figures, and those 3 blew up. Like well, two of them blew up. The one you can actually find for pretty cheap because nobody really wants him, and that's Wizpig, the main boss from Diddy Kong Racing. And I've debated buying them, but I really haven't gotten around to it because, you know, life, adulting, you know, everybody has to pay bills, etc. But, you know, it is going to happen eventually. The main two that I'm wanting, of course, is Diddy Kong and Banjo. And yes, Banjo is one of those characters that is very, very dear to me, so it's definitely at the top of my list. But the problem with that is some of those didn't really come with just carts. They came with airplane, like the little airplane from the game. I don't think any of them came with the hoverboat, which I thought would have been the best, out of my opinion, you know, if they added all three. But they didn't. And there's actually a figure set that came out with Mario and his cart, and I think Luigi's cart, which was odd. And then it also came with Banjo in the same pack with a normal, like, Diddy Kong Racing cart and the airplane. And the reason I guess I've been holding off is because, one, you know, usually if you find a Banjo, you're going to pay anywhere from, and this is loose, just the figure alone, you're going to pay anywhere from 50 to 80 bucks. And that's for a rough one. I have found them a little bit cheaper, but there's usually always something wrong or broken. And I'm the type of collector that doesn't really want to buy broken stuff. I mean, who does? So I haven't really gotten around to looking at it, but, you know, that's just kind of in the works. And eventually I will do an update where I've got all of the line, you know, eventually. I just haven't gotten around to it, and I am aiming to buy it. So we'll see what happens and what comes about and what comes up for sale sooner or later. But I guess another big problem that's kind of like kept me away from them is about all of the airplanes you see, like, you know, the carts, they're all missing their wings. And finding that is basically a no-go. You're not going to find that. From whenever I've looked multiple occasions, and that's usually the case. Now, I may be wrong now, but in my experience, in my collecting experience, that's what I've dealt with, and that's what I've seen. So maybe I just need to look in better places. I'm not sure, but, you know, that's just kind of how collecting goes. You find good stuff some days, and then you find nothing the next. But anyway, so I guess I reviewed his figure, and then here's his cart. There's nothing really special about it. It's just the classic small variant red pipe frame cart, which is actually my favorite Mario carts of all time, other than the Beat Asher. So yeah, but anyway, so here's Mario, and we're going to move on to an honorable mention or two, and that should wrap up the collection video. So yeah. So here is another honorable mention that I was talking about earlier. These are the new series that Walmart has kind of come out with that they sell pretty frequently. Now, I haven't seen very many of him. I actually just found this one. Luckily, he was the only one, and I think he was on the top shelf, and I just happened to look up and see the word Diddy Kong, of course. And yeah, that's kind of how I grabbed him. But he come with a DK barrel, so it was an immediate buy. I mean, he was fairly cheap. And, I mean, you're getting a pretty great figure from what I can gather. It's almost close to the mold that they used in the same company that made the Diddy Kong Racing figures. It's almost the same kind of head mold, but it's just a tad bit different. But as you can see, he's I mean, he's a pretty detailed figure. I haven't taken him out of the box yet, and I probably will eventually. I don't know. If I buy another one, I definitely will. But he's just kind of too cool to take out. So yeah, but here's the of course, the better half to this figure. So let's move on. As I said, here is the better half of that other figure. Now, this one I'm mixed about. And I bought it because, you know, at the time it was these were just coming out, as in like this art style, and this figure exactly was just now coming out. And it was kind of like, okay, well, it's cool, I'm going to buy it, mainly because I like the accessory that it came with. But as far as the figure goes, I'm not really a fan, and I'll show you exactly why. So the first problem I have is his head mold. He's just not... there's just something off about his head sculpt. I don't know what it is, if it's the eyes, it's just... He's not very Donkey Kong to me. I know that sounds crazy, but the other issue I have, and you guys might already see this, is his arms. It's just a weird way to approach a Donkey Kong figure. I understand that his forearms are mostly bigger than, his actual biceps, but in, a figure stance, it just doesn't really make much sense to make him that way. I don't know. He's not a very good posable figure, I guess, in my opinion. Of course, compared to, say that. That is my favorite Donkey Kong figure, period, other than the Donkey Kong Country series, which is something I am looking into getting sooner or later, even if it's a loose figure. But yeah, so here is that. Like I said, the main reason that I bought him was because of the banana item. I mean, I just thought it would look cool. And, if I ever took it out of box, it would look cool with, these figures here, even though it's not really a Mario Kart banana, per se. But yeah, so there was that honorable mention, and then we got one more, and that should wrap up our video for the day of the Nintendo collection. So we're going to look at this. Alright. I know some of you are going to say that this is no longer a Nintendo character. And you're right. It is owned by Microsoft now, but back in the day, this was one of Nintendo's biggest moneymakers, in my opinion, to date. When Rare was at its height, its peak, with Donkey Kong Country, Donkey Kong 64, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie. I mean, all those games just really, really stormed the market. And of course, Conker's Bad Fur Day was on the back end, I guess you could say, of what's the word? He was on the back end of kind of the Microsoft Banjo-Kazooie, or Microsoft and Rareware buyout, but he's still a dear character in my opinion. One of my favorite games of all time, of course, because it's raunchy. But this is the Banjo-Kazooie Funko Pop that I just found the other day. Didn't even know that they made, and once I saw it, it was immediate. I grabbed it, had to have it. There was no denying that I had to have it. So yeah, but anyway, that was kind of like a little honorable mention. I just wanted to kind of add into there. So we're going to get an overview of the collection here in just a second, and I want to show you pretty much all of what I've got. If I can fit it all on this shelf, it's kind of hard to do when you're limited on room, but yeah, we'll take a look at it and see what I can do. But that is my Nintendo collection, so here is the overview. Also, something I forgot to mention is I am a huge Polyworld fan. This is Nintendo, so I felt like I kind of had to include it too. I didn't want to leave it out. Here is a tiny little Pokeball with a Polyworld in it. Nothing really special. You just kind of press the button and there he is. He does come out, by the way. Not going to give him too much attention here. This is just kind of like a little honorable mention. And here's like a little holographic Poliwrath. Not much special, but definitely very, very big to me. I always keep them in the sleeve. And then here is the Burger King Poliwhirl that came inside this ball, which I'm pretty sure these got recalled at one point in time. They just kind of pop open, and then he sits right in there, or doesn't, something like that. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and do the overview now. I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to delay the video or anything like that, or anything of that sort. So we're gonna go ahead and get on with it now. there you have it, folks. Here is my Nintendo collection in its entirety now. I know you guys are going to wonder where's the GameCube and things. I moved stuff around back to where it was before I made the video. So here it is, and we're going to just do kind of like a live overview of everything. Let you see it all in its glory, even though it's not a lot. And I'll actually give a little bit of an update because I got some news just a minute ago, and my collection is going to be expanding soon. So yeah, I'll get into that. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Comment, you don't have to like or subscribe. It's totally up to you guys, but this has been my Nintendo collection, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say. So we'll catch you guys in the next episode. See ya.